Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any announcements, Marcy?
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded, and so we will post it tomorrow. In addition, Owen's presentation, if you're staying for that, that'll be available on our website shortly after.
So like I've said before, it's again, a record-setting crowd here that we normally just have Judson Malone, but we have, I don't know exactly why everybody's here, so I think we're just going to go with our normal presentation, and public comments is next after that. We have a presentation from Owen Harrington about, basically, we've seen some of the rankings of both school district, particularly the high school, and we aren't as high as we've been in years past, it feels like, and this is not a new conversation, this is something we've talked about for a number of years on the school board, and there's kind of an explanation, I guess I would say, for that, and potentially some things to talk about of what we may want to consider doing differently. Generally, we don't educate to do well in rankings, but it's a factor because folks look at those things, particularly U.S. News and World Report. So we're going to go through that presentation right now, and then after that is the public comment portion. I guess I can set up what we do with that at that time. So, Owen, wherever you are, want to take it away?
I don't know if we have sound set up yet.
Can it figure it out?
Oh, no, I have that money too.
Thank you, Joanne. So good evening, everyone. I'm hoping that you're here for this presentation, otherwise it's going to be a long night for you. So long story short, this was requested by some of the board members just to look at our data and what it actually means, and a little bit more of a focus on U.S. World News and Report and where we ranked. I haven't looked at the historical rankings, so I guess in the past we ranked a little bit higher than we do currently. Our ranking is still very solid, and we'll talk about that as we go down through. So, again, kind of what I just talked about, and also, as we're going through this presentation, kind of thinking about who we are and who we want to be, and some time for questions and discussion if we'd like to take that. So I think, looking in the audience, a lot of us probably experienced something similar to this, in that we were in rows. We probably didn't have the wood stove in the middle of our classroom, and it wasn't as historical of a building. But I can remember very clearly being in elementary school in rows, and I did my work, and that was pretty much the extent of it. There were my grades, and just hyper-focused on whatever the teacher had asked me to do. If you think about classrooms now, they're very different. These aren't necessarily, with the exception of the one in the middle with the students in scrubs, these aren't necessarily our classroom pictures, but you would see this if you walked around classrooms today in both schools. They're very much, you see a lot of interaction between the teacher and the students, and a lot of group work and technology, obviously. But what I think is the distinct difference is if you look at the CRTC picture, which is right in the middle, it's a Concord Regional Technical Center. We have a lot of our students that go to that from here at Bell High School, and they're learning about future careers and what they'd like to become when they graduate from high school. So again, question we need to keep asking ourselves: who are we now, and who do we want to be? So data sets that we have available to us, there's a plethora, but some ones that we want to talk about today is iPlatform. Every single person in this room has access to iPlatform. It's through the New Hampshire Department of Ed. And New Hampshire SAS and SAT, all parents have access to that, and we have access to that at the school level. U.S. News rankings, everyone here has access. Niche, it's another great one everyone has access to. iReady and STAR, all of our schools use that. And progress monitoring, we'll talk about a little bit later. So iPlatform, if you go on the New Hampshire ED website, you can get onto iPlatform and you can spend hours on there pouring through data on every single school in the state of New Hampshire. And you can drill right down to specific data sets. I do have some handouts if anyone's interested, but this is, you're obviously not going to be able to see it, but it's a comparison of the Bedford School District, Bow in the middle, and then Lebanon, which Lebanon High School actually ranks 4th in the state, which I think is surprising to a lot of people, but on U.S. World News and rankings, they rank 4th in the state. And we compare pretty well with those two schools, with Bedford and Lebanon. This is Bow, the Bow School District, and this, you can get this data set just by going on iPlatform, and that's just the district as a whole. You can see the 67% ELA proficiency through state testing, 57% for math, and all the way down through. In science, it's 45%. Bow Elementary School, 63% for ELA proficiency and 76% for math. This is old data. I think that's really important to remember. It's old data in that it's a couple of years old, and you can get more. I'll give you more current data as we go through. And you can see the average teacher salary and cost per pupil. Interestingly enough, our cost per pupil is much lower than some of the similarly ranking high schools and school districts. We were going to do this with the SAU board, so we had Dumbarton Elementary with a slide right past that. And here's Bow Memorial School set, 68% ELA proficiency, that's 5 through 8, and then 52% for math and 45% science.
Oh, and what are the, what's the, roughly like the average for those, do you know? Like, so.
Are you talking for New Hampshire?
Yeah, just, you say we're doing quite well, but quite well compared to what? And don't, if you know it off the top of your head, then roughly it's fine.
There's so much data, I don't know all of it off the top of my head. I did pass out this, which is all New Hampshire SAS and SAT data. And as we go down through this presentation, I'll explain how to read the chart. But you'll actually see the state proficiency rate, and then the difference between the specific Bow schools and the state proficiency rate. And it goes by year, but we're above the average just about in every single category. Could be upwards to 30%, 30 points above the average, or it could be 2 to 5.
Jenna pointed out there's total, like top 25
Yep.
is like blue. Okay.
So just a quick review, New Hampshire SAS, that's grades 3 through 8 for ELA and math, and then 5, 8, and 11 for science. And we have our SAT test for juniors, that's in math and ELA. The SAT is very different than what it used to be. If you have students that are looking to go into college, a lot of colleges have them optional, and you don't even need to send them in. So that changes the stakes of the SAT. Students come in and not as amped up to take them as they used to be. And it's not an excuse, it just is what it is at this point. The only reason I know that is I have a senior looking at colleges right now, and it's an option for every single one to include it or not. If you have a child who's taking the New Hampshire SAS, you can get right onto the New Hampshire website. You need their unique 6-character code. You can get that from the schools, and you'll see their date of birth and their first name. STAR and iReady. Bow Elementary School uses iReady, and Bow Memorial School uses STAR. And this is our second year at the high school level using STAR, and I'll explain why that's actually really exciting. And College Board for SAT. So, U.S. News, how do they rank high schools? So the 30% for college readiness and 10% for college curriculum breadth is actually all advanced placement. So it's AP courses. That's all they're looking at. And to even narrow it down further, they're actually looking at seniors. That's it. We have more than seniors taking those courses. And the other caveat to that is that it's the number of students that have actually taken the test. And what we do here is we don't necessarily tell students, well, we don't tell students they have to take the test. So some students will go through the AP course and not take the test, but they have access to all that really more high-level curriculum. And then you can look down through and see that how they perform on the SAT and science and New Hampshire SAS, that's 20%. And underserved student performance is 10%. If you look at our free and reduced lunch, we don't have a big population of underserved students. And graduation rate is 10%. And we do really well with that. So Bow High School. Actually have some numbers for you.
Just one thing, Owen, you mentioned graduation rate, and you said we did really well with that. People are really up here and see 93%. Those 4-year completers, so we have a number of students who are here until they're 22, so those aren't considered 4-year completers.
So Bow High School is ranked 20th in the state of New Hampshire, and one of the questions is how many schools is that ranked out of? That's ranked out of 93, so top 20% in the state of New Hampshire. I think that's pretty solid. Are there ways to improve it? Yep. And we can certainly have that discussion and talk about how to do that. Obviously, a big bang for your buck is AP courses and channeling more students into AP and having more students take the AP exam, specifically seniors. Middle schools. In middle schools and elementary schools, it's all New Hampshire SAS. So 50% for math and, for proficiency levels, it's 50% of that. And then, which gets kind of confusing after that, 50% for reading performance. So, or reading and math performance. So how well do you perform? Not just are you proficient, but how well do you perform on those tests? And that's it. Nothing else goes into it. So Bow Memorial School is ranked 43rd, and those scores actually came out yesterday, timely enough. And that's 43rd out of 268 schools. So again, I think we're doing pretty well comparatively. And a really great opportunity to celebrate. This was different 2 days ago. So Bow Elementary School was ranked 61st, I believe. So they jumped 15 schools, 16 schools, and they're ranked 45th now. A lot of hard work went into that, and that's 45 out of 442 schools. Pretty good. I really prefer niche over US World News and Report, and just for some really simple reasons. They take more than just test scores and look at those. They actually look at the town, the community, and they look at different data sets. They'll look at teacher salaries, they'll look at other things like that, just to kind of have a more global view of what the data is actually telling you. I can go into all that if you'd like me to, but it's basically what in simplified terms, basically what I explained to you. Both school districts ranked with an A-. You see you get dinged on diversity, D+, and college prep, that goes into AP a little bit as well with a B+, but A's all across the board with an A+ in sports. I don't know if you were there last night for the awards night. It's the first one I've been to. It was amazing. There was hardly parking spots, and that's a really kind of telling data set too. How involved is the community in the school? Bow High School itself has a B+. Again, sports is ranking higher up there, and another ding in diversity. Bow Memorial School, B+. And slide by Dunbar Elementary. And Bow Elementary School, A-. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this. This is just a really busy slide. If you want some handouts at the end of this, I'm happy to give them to you. But this is basically just talking about New Hampshire SAS scores and where we rank. And you see Dunbar Elementary up there. Obviously, that's not a concern for Bow. But if you look at Bow Elementary School, they're doing really well. And same thing with BMS and BHS is doing just fine too. If you look at the differences with the state, all above the average. This is for the board members. I gave you a handout just kind of walking through how to read the New Hampshire SAS scores from 2018 on. All the cohorts are color-coded so you can follow them from 2018 all the way through to when they graduated out of the New Hampshire SAS testing. And working with middle school, we were going over their data. they came up with, just kind of simplifying the bottom of that chart, just what are the percent proficient, total proficient in that year, in that grade level, and then what's the New Hampshire percent proficient, and then what's the difference between Bow and the state. And I think you'll find as you go through that, you can pour through that on your own, that Bow's doing just fine comparatively to the state. And just for excitement's sake, you might want to look at Bow Elementary School, look at them past 3 or 4 years compared to 2018, 2019, and you'll see that there's a definite jump in scores. There's X's all across 2020, because obviously that was during COVID, and we did not take the New Hampshire SAS testing during that year. So how can we increase U.S. News and niche scores? It's really simple at BES, DES, and BMS. Hyper-focus on New Hampshire SAS. And when I say that, I'm not being sarcastic and saying we have to spend a lot of time teaching to the test. It's really not that elaborate at all. Just make sure that we keep it in the back of our minds, work towards it, and Lori and I have talked about this multiple times. It's not a lot of work, it's just being cognizant of it and being aware of it. But also the New Hampshire Education Department put something out called modular tests, so that we can actually put our students into the modular tests, which break it down into standards, and we can use those to basically see where our students are in the standards. And I know I'm getting really nerdy and geeking out on it, I apologize, but the state of New Hampshire also gives us access to specific standard scores, and we can plug those into Excel and find out exactly where specific grade levels are with how they've been teaching to those standards for 4 years, and we can hyper-focus on our Tier 1 instruction in that area. That's just good teaching, and that's going to bring the New Hampshire SAS scores up theoretically. EHS, again, much more nuanced. We have to have a conversation about where we want to be with AP and what we want to do with that. I'll explain a little bit more as we go through. So again, the question is, who are we? Who do we want to be? We have CRTC. We've really grown that over the years. And me personally, obviously I'm not a sole decision maker with this, but I think there's a tremendous value in giving students access to exploring careers and actually jumping right into them through CRTC. And you may have a student that really wants to be a plumber, or wants to be an electrician, or wants to go into nursing, or wants to go into education. And we can take them off-site, bring them to Concord High School to CRTC, and they can really explore that career. There's a ton of value in them going into that and saying, I don't want to do this. Now they don't have to waste their time after high school, and more importantly, wasting their money on tuition. There's a lot of value there in doing that. But the drawback to the other side of that coin is those students aren't there to take AP courses theoretically, because you're taking them out of at least a couple of hours. Matt can explain exactly what it is, how much time that is, because they're taking a bus to CRTC and back, and there's at least 2 classes that they're taking there. Again, we have our numbers capped at 1.50. Now we have over 100 students doing it. Again, in my opinion, tremendous value. And we talked about it earlier, all schools use iReady or STAR. BES uses iReady, and then the other two schools use STAR. And we'll talk about that a little bit. I think this is old news to most everybody on the board. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 instruction. Tier 1 is everybody in the classroom. Tier 2, when using STAR and iReady and things like that, we find out that there's a specific set of students that need more, so they'll go into an intervention process and receive a little bit more instruction. Tier 3, that's even more intense instruction. Those are students that need significant support. And that Tier 2 is usually small group instruction, 3 to 5 students. Tier 3 is usually 1 or 2. And I'm just going to fly through this. These are your iReady results for fall of 2024. And what you can basically see there is, the caveat to this is that it's the first set of testing in the fall based on grade level. So yeah, you look at that and you say 48% proficient. That's not great. It's absolutely fine. It's the first start of the school year. We expect our students not to be completely proficient at that point. what iReady does that's really nice is they give you stretch growth. And as you can see, they expect that 68% of our students are going to be proficient in reading at the end of the year. I disagree with them. I think it's going to be even higher. Historically speaking, we've scored higher in English 6. So. And Bow Elementary iReady math results, that's even a little bit more nerve-wracking, 37% proficient. But the stretch growth, they're saying 86% are going to be proficient at the end of the school year. And I totally believe it. If you look historically speaking, that's where they've been. So we're in a good spot. This is DES and BMS star results. Again, start of the school year, but if you look at the green and the blue, green is just, these kids are just in a good spot, they're good to go. Blue is, let's keep them on watch. Yellow, those students probably need some intervention. And red, that's your tier 3. Again, this is 7-8. Again, the caveat, this is the beginning of the school year. There's reading, 7-8. In high school, 9th and 10th grade, these are the reading results, and here are your math results. If you look at 10th grade, those are a little concerning when you see those, but then if you talk to the teachers and the people giving the test, it's not, because there's a good amount, I think over 50 math that are not tested because they're already in advanced math. And each seat costs money, so instead of spending that money, we're just going to let them run because they've already shown that we don't need to necessarily look right at the results. What's exciting about this, though, is that you have high school teachers talking about individual students and their scores and what those students might need for supports, or where they may just need a little bit more extra time in support in specific subjects. That isn't traditionally something that happens at high schools with STAR tests and the like. Other data sources for SAU 67 schools, I can go through this if you'd like, but long story short, there's all kinds of data that we take each and every day. And when you look down at the bottom of the list, obviously grade level progress, and that's done through the classroom teacher, but we look at attendance data, we look at nurse visits, we look at behavior data, because we want to make sure that we're paying attention to the whole child and making sure that we know what's going on and where we can support. Okay, what do we do with all this data? We have data meetings, and these are groups of teachers and reading specialists, math specialists. You may have behavioral interventionists that sit in on these meetings, and school administrators. And they just pour over the data, and they use something called multiple nets of data. So it's a STAR score, a Hampshire SAS score, grade level data. It's your attendance, it's your nurse visits. And you just determine if there's students that shake out that need a little bit extra. And again, think back to that picture of all those students in the rows and the Woodstone. I don't think there were data needs for those. And how and when do we provide Tier 2 instruction? Remember that Tier 2 instruction is a small group instruction. There's various blocks throughout the day that they can do that in Bow and Dunbar. Bow Memorial School has a similar structure, but they've done something a little bit more innovative in the past couple of years. They have something called structured literacy, because we do have some students that we're just not quite sure why they're struggling to read. So what we've done is taken them and put them in a separate class outside of their regular literacy class, so they're still getting that, but then they're also getting something called structured literacy, and just really pinpointing the areas where they need extra support. It's great. I've sat in on a few of those classes, and it's a really good opportunity for those students to get some more back to basics on phonics and things like that. Bow High School, we use something called Learning Lab. So students are assigned to that, so it's similar to a study hall, but it's more structured and allows more opportunity for them to work with individual teachers. And something fairly innovative for the high school, we have flex blocks. So each morning students can come in a little bit early, and there's some opportunity for them to meet with individual teachers for supports. And then once a month they have something called the Flex Day, where it's pretty much wide open on that day to schedule individual times to meet with teachers to work with them on specific needs that they may have. And students can self-select from there, or they might be invited, depending on where they are with their assignments and such. So, we're getting towards the end of this. What's next? We have all of this data, we've done a lot of work with it, we've created these long, huge Google spreadsheets. We really need to do something that's a little bit more effective than that. We're looking at something called branching lines, and that's actually a data warehouse that supports what we were calling the tiers of instruction, which is called MTSS. Instead of taking our reading interventions and our math interventions and taking them offline for significant amounts of time to set up the data and get prepared for the data team meetings, we can keep them working with students and coaching teachers. And then they can just open up branching lines and run right into a data meeting. And that's invaluable. We talked about something called summer programming, where we can invite some students in over the summer. Just they may need a little extra support, and we provide that to them, and that's beyond your special ed summer work. That's just students that we're seeing through our data team meetings that might need a little bit extra. Obviously, invitation only. With any invitation, you can say no, but it's an opportunity. Perhaps what I'm most excited about with this presentation is kind of thinking this through. What if we created our own data dashboard that we wanted to put up on the website, and we could show the data that we want to share with the community at large, and how do we identify ourselves? What do we feel is most important about SAU 67 and the host schools? I also think it's really important to celebrate our successes. There's successes in here, even though potentially we're not as high as we want to be in the U.S. World News and Report. I think we're doing really well. But along with the successes, what challenges do we have? We need to make sure that we're really clear with what those are, so that we can find supports and make sure that the community is aware of them as well. Because it does us no, it doesn't serve us well not to be clear and concise about this. This is branching lines. We can talk more about that if you'd like. And this is just some metrics on what could be on a dashboard, a data dashboard. And again, we can look at that as time goes on, but just some different various ideas. And circling back, who are we? Who do we want to be? Questions? Discussions?
Yeah, a few. I don't know where to begin really. I'm on a long to-do list of mine. I want to get the data to understand. I think it's through real estate in town to get an understanding of this. But in my personal experience, 25 to 75% of the families here move here for the school district, and the vast majority of them move away once their kids graduate high school, and within a year to 10 years. And so with so many in our community focused on that, both coming in and leaving, I think that's the people that the rankings matter. I think with our kids in the schools, I personally haven't had any complaints at all about the education they're getting. It's all been great. You know, at the end of the year, we get a list where every kid is going away for college and things like that. Every single year, we have 2 or 3 that go to Ivy League schools, almost always one to one of the armed services academies, like really, really impressive stuff. And so I don't want to do anything that jeopardizes what we're doing here right now, but at the same time, you have such a high percentage of people that rely on those rankings because buying a house and selling a house and people coming here. And I think it's a bigger challenge now because this school is 25 years old, and for 10 or 15 years, it's the newest high school, and everyone looks here and thinks of this big, bright, shiny penny, and so they want to come here. But we don't really have that anymore as a draw. And so anything we can do to kind of do better with the rankings, but still do well with the education. And I can tell you, one of the things he mentioned was dual enrollment. I don't know if you guys remember Steph Goslin, but Steph Goslin graduated a couple years ago. She goes to University of Alabama, and she took dual enrollment classes in high school here, a lot of them. And she started at Alabama as a sophomore. I'm sure there's lots of stories like that, but I certainly know that is one. And I know those dual enrollment classes kind of compete with the AP classes in some respects in terms of what we do with those. But that's one aspect. You've mentioned the cap of 50 people at CRTC, but again, I've been on the board, I don't know, 9 years or something. It wasn't really, while there was a cap, it wasn't the cap that was restrictive. No one was signing up. It wasn't like we were turning people away. People are just much more interested in CRTC now, and we've done nothing to support that, as far as I know. And I don't expect our board to be inclined to do anything to lessen that. But any thoughts on what we can do? One of the things I understand is sort of the AP classes, we kind of let anybody take them, and in some schools, I think they do things to restrict that to people that their prior academic coursework and have a better expectation that they're going to have success.
Sure, so Owen, actually, you can speak to what you found out from some other schools around AP tests, but the thought has been to open it up to any student who has that interest to take that level of course. I think this has opened really good conversation, even just if you're talking about New Hampshire SAS, just paying attention to it, being cognizant of it, talking to our kids about it, not teaching to the test. And then the conversation around AP, should there be expectations, and what should those be? And so I know Matt can also talk to it, but having a conversation with those AP teachers and what would they like to see happen, or would they recommend any changes? We met with an area school district about kind of what they're doing, because they rank pretty well. And summer programming is one of those, and we felt like that was an easy thing for us to put together, where we could track that data of the students who do participate, for the students who we recommend, the ones who participate and the ones who don't, and kind of track that data over time. Branching Minds, you'll also see in the budget process a place where, again, like Owen said, instead of having people use a ton of time to go in and enter data manually, this would collect it for us and be much, much more valuable, I think, for the tool. So those are a couple of initial things that we've been thinking about.
When you look, I think it was in US News report, right? The teacher ratio?
That was niche, I think.
That was niche. Anyway, I know you guys haven't been on niche. It's awesome. It's from kindergarten through college, and they have 1 million ranking. I like the rankings. Unbelievable rankings of stuff you would never think of at every level. But anyway, all of those schools that did better than us, the student-teacher ratio was generally 11 or 12 to 1, and it had listed us at 17 to 1.
17 or 18.
Yeah, do you think that is a factor at all? Because I don't feel like, it doesn't feel that way
There's
to
a lot of teachers here.
Every one of them was that way. We really stood out with having such a different ratio.
It was a substantial difference, and I remember asking you, where did you get that? But I think that it does make a difference, right? You're talking about opportunities for smaller group instruction, for smaller group intervention, because those numbers would reflect not just classroom teachers, but also special education teachers, interventionists. So yeah, I think it does make a difference.
It's a healthy balance between cost per student and then your student teacher.
Yeah, my rough math on that was it would cost, if we were to get our numbers down to 12, it would be about $1 million a school, additional than what we do now.
Can I ask a couple questions? So, first, thank you for putting this together, because when some people came to me from the community and they were concerned, I just wanted to try and bridge that. So one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people here listened to was the podcast Sold a Story. And we kind of fell a little bit into that a while ago, but is it ARC that we have? How many more years are we stuck using ARC? Are we in contract with them?
There's no contract, but there's a cost to changing programs, and the cost is a cost, and there's an actual dollar amount. But then there's also the human cost of it, and that you've got to invest a lot of energy to changing the program. And I don't know, if you look at Lowell Elementary School, I would not change ARC. I think they've done a ton of work behind it, and I think they're doing really well by it. I think it's a conversation to have them, and I think it's healthy to always have those conversations. Is this program serving us, and is it doing what we need it to do? What we've done since implementing ARC is we've recognized its weak points. And we brought in other programs like UFly is probably the biggest one that I can think of off the top of my head, which is all around phonics and phonemic awareness and things like that, which is what Sold the Story was all about, was making sure that you have a strong phonics base for students. And ARC has it in there, but you gotta work really hard to find it. And UFly, we can just bring that right in and put that into the lower elementary classes. So that's been really helpful, and that's happening in Dunbar as well. So it's something we recognized across the board.
So another thing too is, are we doing any work with the science of reading? And are we doing any professional development?
Yep, the state of New Hampshire offered letters for free for, I think, around 3 years. And there's a good number of teachers that have done that, good number of administrators that have done that, and that's all science of reading based. And it's intense. I mean, it's a 2-year process, and it's a big time commitment on the teachers and administrators to do it. And the other part of it is, I mentioned in my report that we're applying for bridging the gap in the 603 grant. That's hyper-focused on reading, and another component of that is everybody has to be trained in letters at that point. So if we were to receive that grant, that would be part of it, and then it's all, I think I just mentioned that, but all science of reading based and K-4.
Another thing too is you were talking about having something on the website. And I think like some people want to see the exact scores, exactly like for each grade, in the spring, in the fall, and also what the curriculums each grade's using, so that it's just a little bit more transparent and easy to find this information. I went on to Bedford's website. They provide a lot of this information, and I just think that this might be something that the community would like to have too, to understand exactly where we are all the time.
Yep. I think that makes a ton of sense. That's that data dashboard that I was talking about earlier.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well,
So the AP classes, you said it's only seniors, so does that not include any juniors that take AP classes?
no, that's, like, whenever you look at data, you have to kind of drill down and look at the fine print, and that was the fine print at seniors. So it's all based on seniors and AP for college readiness, based on US World News Report.
And do we know our percentage of juniors taking AP classes versus
I
seniors taking AP classes?
don't, I don't want to put them out on the spot, but it's certainly something we can find out.
It's also IB, which we're not an IB school, so it's AP and IB. And Matt, you had information about reasoning maybe not as many seniors take AP courses?
Yeah, so the dual enrollment that Bryce mentioned, that certainly takes some of the students who might otherwise take AP are doing the dual enrollment. This year, I believe we have 40-something seniors who are part of CRTC, so that's going to take them out. If you're a senior and you're going to hopefully want to use your SAT or your AP scores for college, many colleges, like say you take AP literature, that's great, but a lot of colleges are saying you still need to take our freshman English course. You take an AP math course, many colleges are saying that's great, but you need to take our AP math, or you need to take our college math course. So the benefit, like go back 25 years ago, there was a benefit where those credits were all being transferred over to colleges. Many colleges are no longer accepting the AP scores. They're saying you still have to take ours. From a financial standpoint, colleges would say, yeah, take our classes, don't come in and shortchange.
That was my experience. Both of my kids who took AP classes, none of them were accepted at their 2 colleges.
But on the flip side of that, with the dual enrollment,
Yeah, the flip side is my older son, who's a sophomore in college now, he took a couple AP courses that didn't transfer over to his college, but CRTC, he got essentially 4 credits from the CRTC program. So cost benefit, he benefited a lot more from the CRTC course in college than it would with the APs.
just to comment on that too, because my son's a junior, so it doesn't count anyway, but when we were talking about taking a couple AP classes and we were talking about whether to take the test or not, which I know they don't have to here, they were dual enrollment through SNU anyway. So he was like, well, I'm probably more likely to get SNU credit than I am to get AP credit, so why would I do both? And I can do both, because I thought it counted for the stats, but but I think that's a disincentive that we don't require them to take the AP test and then they can do dual enrollment through SNU, which is an incredible college, and get college credit for like $300 or something. So
Yes, well, I think it'll be an ongoing discussion, you know, and I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I'd like to do what we can to do better on those rankings at the cost of the education work product.
Well, and not just the rankings, but, just the numbers, see if there's anything more that they can, I don't know, maybe tier 2 is, I don't know. I don't know. Staff?
I think during our budget meetings, you'll hear some of our proposals and that they're directly related to some of this information. So it'll definitely be something that I think we should continue to talk about.
Great, thank you.
So Eric Anderson is here.
Yeah, I know we have a big crowd, but we have, we gotta take our picture for town magazine or whatever we call it, the annual report.
It'll only take like 3 minutes.
So if everybody give us 3 minutes, we'll be right back, because it's always bad, but photography in this room, right, Eric, you want us up the stairs? Yeah, that's what I figured.
If there's anyone in the audience,
Sorry.
though, that has questions about the presentation for Owen or any of us, please feel free to do that now.
motion to approve the September 30th minutes. Any discussion? All right, not hearing anything, all in favor of the minutes? Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. All right, public comment, and I will say I'm surprised. I was surprised to see all of you here. I didn't think anybody was going to be, well, Judson Malone was going to be here. Typically, Judd's the only one that comes, and so I asked my neighbor, why is everyone here? And apparently people want to talk about a book. So that's unbeknownst to me, but anyway, we have the public comment now, and again, we won't limit how long you want to talk unless it goes a really long time, but I'm curious what everybody wants to talk about, so have at it. Remember, you got to say your address, and that's about it. Come on, seriously. I can see you, Judd.
I don't have any comments about a book. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about Owen's presentation. I think the CRTC program is mighty cool. I think encouraging kids to not just blanket go to college because it's time to go to college, and get them to think about some other options is a really good benefit. So thanks for your commitment to teaching the kids what's good for them or giving them options, not for just trying to pad our stats. My home's already worth more than I can barely afford anyway, so I'll take the counter argument. I can't afford the real estate. So I think schools are going to be great. But anyway, thank you for that. I had a comment about some comments I'm hearing from my kids in regards to some of the classes that they're getting, and I'll call them softer skills. Not math, not science necessarily. Some of the things like media literacy, the health classes, things of that nature. And I'm hearing there's always two sides to a coin. And I'm hearing things that come from them maybe as more point of views of the teacher as opposed to a factual discussion about things, or it could be that they have an opinion about what the right news source to go to is. So, media literacy. Only watch CNN. That is a comment I've heard from my middle school that her teacher told her. And that's concerning to me. There isn't any one media outlet. I don't want to say to go watch Fox News all the time either. I think that talking to the kids and teaching them how to look at different sides of an argument, different sides of where things are in the media, helps them to arrive and teach them how to distill out the actual facts out of these things, instead of saying, no, don't look over here, only look over here. And I've just heard it more than once, and I want to take an opportunity to ask that our teachers take a moment to think about, am I teaching these kids how to think and be critical of the information that they're taking in? There's a comment, a phrase that this podcaster I like following, the Meteor podcast, if any of you are interested, he says a lot, skepticism is the chastity of the intellect. And I think we need to teach kids to be skeptical of the inputs that they're hearing, the soft skills, and learning how to distill what is the real facts out of these things. That's just a comment. I've heard it before. There are things. Yes.
Were you done on that point? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
I was just going to say, I mean, we strive for impartiality. I mean, there's no question. And my high school kid right now is taking a class here where they're looking at various movies and comparing them to what really happened in history, doing the very thing you're talking about, is what really transpired. But we strive for impartiality and you know.
I didn't
It's human nature,
mean
right?
to imply that I didn't think that was the case, or certainly the goal, right? But I was just letting you know some of what I'm hearing. That's all that is. Maybe just a reminder, and this is coming from middle schooler to the dad, too. So take that with a grain of salt, but it's providing feedback to you. And let's see, sorry. One topic that might be useful, I think media literacy is a necessary thing right now, and I appreciate that the school is doing that. I think parents need to be more involved. There's a lot of things that I think parents should be more involved with and rely on schools for less in a lot of ways, but that's not here nor there. One thing that's happening a lot with my kids and I'm trying to teach them about is apps on their phone. Maybe this is already part of media literacy, but teaching kids how to look at app permissions as one thing. And to say, hey, this app is free, quote unquote, free. I am giving away my biometric data to this corporation to sell. Or I'm giving away my location to this corporation to sell. Nothing in life is free, right? You're paying with a certain cost. Maybe your data isn't important to you, but I think teaching kids about the reality of where technology is right now and the monetization of them, they are being monetized. We all are, to an extent. I'm guilty of it too, in certain ways, right? But teaching them, and maybe just we can incorporate that, and maybe that's a possibility for adding to some curriculum. Maybe it already is, and I apologize if I just don't know about it. But that was something that I wanted to just bring up as a topic. And that's all for me.
Thank you.
That's the Long Drive. It wasn't about, I think you just heard me before ask, there was some chatter about a possible book question. That's what we all came by. But I'm actually really glad that I did, because I want to just respond. I actually teach media literacy at the school that I work at now, and my curriculum was actually, because I worked here under the library media specialist here at BMS, and the CNN channel that she shows, the CNN 10, and it's very neutral. It's not one or the other. She uses curriculum that teaches how to critically look at things and uses a technique called lateral reading, where you actually are on the page, but you move off of it to make sure it's a valid source, and using something called Control F, I believe it is, which is a media literacy program that takes your eyes off that page to learn about bias, to learn about that. And I do know that she teaches about monetization of apps and websites, because my curriculum that I had developed from where I work now was actually based off of everything that I learned from her here at BMS. So it is a very neutral thing, and CNN 10 is not CNN at all. It's just probably one, it's one of the little branches off of it, but it's a very neutral, and it asks questions too. What did you think about this? How did you see this? What's the other side? So I do know that that is a part of that. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
And that's great to let everybody know things.
John Mom right here, Pakistan 19th grade social studies. We actually do a very small, newer unit for my classes here about the role of social media and the influence it has on kids and some of that, advertising data and what that means. And I did a little assignment with them about that. Like my phrase was, you are the product. They're marketing to you. You are using your time, and we did that trade-off. It is happening. It'd be something really cool if we could formalize that and have discussions about that. I did a little 2 to 3 day test run. Kids really enjoyed it. I showed them data about how much money was made in 2021. It was Instagram made $4 billion. Something ridiculous. And TikTok at that time was not that big, so they were at 2 billion. TikTok, the last time I checked, was 10, 15 billion. That's just estimates. So it is happening. I would love to do more of it and see where that goes. But just know that these conversations that I'm having is the youngest teacher that they've had, someone that's grown up in that area. It's been something that's been a part of my life for so long, and it's something that I would like to continue to do.
Can I ask a question, actually?
Sure.
So you're talking about the finances of it and how you're the product and things like that, which is just amazing and fascinating. Do you also talk about the psychology behind it too, and how it's addictive and how they make it
Yeah.
so that it's addictive?
Yeah, over the summer I read The Ancient Generation. I'm sure a lot of you know what that book is, which talks about those concepts and how that addiction develops. And I've spoken to it from my own personal experience, how I've had to grow out of that and what that means. I didn't do it as much, and it's been a lot better. I don't have to as much because all I would talk about is like why we're doing the phone policy at the middle school, why the pouches exist, what we're doing with that, what it's training your body to do. And I think it would be cool to do some more of that psychological analysis, get kids understanding what that means, get a little bit more buy-in there. It could be really helpful, because right now it's a little bit complaining, but we have no large-scale issues with it, but it would be, especially as like they get more used to it, like why are we doing this, and that could help. I haven't personally had time to develop something out of that, but it's something that I've talked about and do regularly. And I show them a little device that I use for myself at home when I'm doing my graduate studies that blocks certain apps on my phone, and I'm open about it and talk about it again as someone that's, I was 12 when I got my first iPod Touch, and that was like the first generation to really get addicted to these things. How do you break out of that? So again, something I've lived. It's not just experience of somebody saying stuff, it's someone that's recognized and moved on from that. So if we want to have more conversations, I'm happy to continue that.
Thank you. All right, I guess we'll move on. If people were here to talk about books and are shy or something, I just want to remind parents that you can always let the school know that you don't want your kids to check out any particular book or any books without your input. If there's something that you want pulled from the school, we have a policy on that. Feel free to email any of us or go on the website. There's the policies are listed there. It's a real simple form to fill out, and we'll look at whatever anyone wants to not be included in our schools. And I think our high school only has 2 parents that want their kids to look at things, none at the middle school, I assume none at the elementary school.
2 district-wide.
But you can if you want, so anyway. Okay, moving right along, then Marcy, anything to add to your report?
I do not have anything to add in my report.
I should back up too. If people were here for public comment, generally people leave. Don't feel like you have to, but feel free to stay. But don't feel like you have to stay. Feel free to go at any time.
Marcy, I have one thing for our budget meetings. For December 9th, we actually talked about ending at 2:30 because one of my children has a doctor's appointment. So,
I don't think it is.
yeah, December 9th, 2:30. And then on the 19th, we had that at 5 to 12, but we're doing it to 4.
It's 8 till we're done.
Yeah, it's me too.
So I block it off with the 4.
Oh, okay, okay.
Usually we're done by noon, but you never know.
If we didn't have it.
Or sometimes, yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Marcy? No? All right. Dwayne?
I know, I have one thing, just one small thing to add, and just a question. I was hopeful that I would have some info for you on tax rate setting, but that hasn't happened. So I think it's a little later than usual, but it's an important thing for us because one of the documents that we prepare for you is based on what we're going to provide in the superintendent's budget is an estimated tax rate. And we kind of need something to compare it to, which we don't have. So hopefully that's coming in. We can check on the DRA side and see. It looks like all the materials are in now, so maybe we're just in the stages of setting that. Are we later in the agenda going to talk about, or can I talk about the elementary school renovation?
Sure.
So we can do it now.
That's fine.
So I don't know if Lori was going to talk at all about it.
I'm more in the mood phase,
Oh, okay.
I'll let you do the stuff.
So, for us, I think at least in my mind, the project was kind of a 4-phase project. There's kind of the pre-construction phase with a lot of design work and kind of behind the scenes stuff. The second phase of the project was always going to be the biggest in terms of money and kind of stuff that needed to come out of my office, which was the construction of the new addition. So that phase is over. We've moved into that. Third phase for me was the whole part of the building in the second floor, which we are basically done with that. Punch list was this week. The move so that we can vacate the first floor. That's happening soon. Lori can talk about that. That's a real logistical part that they've been incredible at. But really the fourth phase for us is the first floor of the building. We're really imminently going to be in that soon. So for me, it's been, this project, this long project, and certainly even before it passed, there was a big part to it. And to kind of see the end a little bit is pretty fulfilling. Again, I would just, recommend or kind of invite people to, with scheduling through the office at the elementary school, to just come and look at the building. It's even way different than when you were there the last time, kind of officially. That all being said, a project of this size, there's always something, I think, that comes up that's unexpected, or is a bit of a snafu, or is a bit of a snag. And for us, it's the new elevator. It's kind of been a thing for us that's been a little bit of an issue, and it's not anyone or a design issue or anything. It's a great elevator, but there's a component to the elevator because that building doesn't have a generator. There's a breaker in that installation that if the building ever loses power and somebody's in the elevator will return to the first floor and the door will open. It sounds simple, right? But it requires a special electrical breaker to do that. And we are having trouble sourcing that. And why I say that to you now is because we're into the kind of that fourth phase of the project. There is a portion of the building that's going to be shut off, like the second story was shut off. It is a little more problematic in terms of how you navigate through the building. And so we're trying to potentially get a waiver from the state elevator inspector to maybe be able to use that without that breaker installed. We're hoping that the breaker will be in the middle of December, but we were told it was coming at the end of October. It still isn't here.
And this is because the old elevator needs to be taken out of commission now to do that renovation, like essentially,
Well,
or you can't get.
The old elevator is going to be hard to get to.
Yeah,
when
okay,
it's
that makes
first
sense.
floor, because of how the whole
Yeah,
part of the building
right,
is
I'm
going to be shut
sure
down.
where it is, yeah.
So they've been able to navigate that to this point, but we're now at the point where we kind of need this to happen. And so we've written a letter to the state about that. Usually when I write stuff out to the state, I'll let you guys know. And we've done that. DEW has also piggybacked on my letter, and then Stanley, who is obviously the installation manufacturer, is also kind of like the state as well.
You call Otis, what about Otis?
Otis is out. Stanley's this elevator. Otis is the other.
Right, it's all Stanley or Otis, one of the two.
So if that's the only thing that happens, that's really great.
Are we on schedule, like other than that?
I feel like they're ahead of schedule.
Ahead of, oh, don't.
Yeah. And then there's some other things that we've been able to do as part of that project. This project has gone well, so we built certain contingencies into the project. Well, this is probably going to happen, so we need some money to do that. And then when that doesn't happen, that money is released back. So we've been able to do some additional things that have been cut out of the project. So it's really been great. I think the staff's been incredible for us in terms of patience and flexibility and things, but I hope they see the end too. This building's going to look vastly different from the top.
I have a question. What happens if we don't get that waiver?
So we're not going to lose the elevator. And then we've got to figure out how we're going to get kids around the building without elevating it successfully at all. And that's what we got to figure out. And that's what, sometimes you just have to figure stuff like that out. So, we'll have to figure that out, and that's what you pay us to do.
And we have worked that out. We have talked to the people who are affected by that.
Oh, okay.
How, so just contact like the front office if I want to go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's It's amazing.
Yeah.
They're cleaning the upstairs starting today. They, as we've been in it, as people have gone to see the renovated part, it looks as good as the addition.
Awesome.
So it's been amazing what they've done. So actually, this is, Wayne made a good point a couple of weeks ago at one of our construction meetings. DEW is so proactive. I really can't speak highly enough of them. I've been through a few projects in my career. This is the only time there's been no problems with our contractors. They're part of our staff. We're really looking forward to being done, but we're really going to miss them. And I'm working with Jim Kimball with his teachers to have a little surprise for all the workers before they go. So we're in elementary school. It'll be neat and cute. But as we're getting ready to move, starting next Thursday, we'll start to move the special ed rooms up to where they'll go. We will be emptying a fair amount of our storage units, and then on Monday, college-bound movers have been the best company for us to work with. We can give people all sorts of recommendations on sources after this. They'll be on Monday, and all the third and fourth grade rooms will be moved upstairs, so that as we go into Thanksgiving, they will close the first floor. And then we're kind of done, except as Wayne said, we've been able to get a lot of things on that list done. And I need even the list from when the first time I sat in a meeting in June 2019. So that's been really good. They always have 4 carpenters on site, and right now as they're cleaning, that's not their job. They are getting, it's almost, if you will, a honeydew list. We've noticed cracks in a different place or sheetrock from another part of the building. They're just fixing everything while they then would help us to make sure that they're a remarkable company that has a really strong work ethic. Right. And I'm just going to see it often. So yeah, definitely come through. It's great. And then, as Marcy and Dwayne and I talked about, in the spring we want to have a community event so that people are associated with the school. Open house, everyone was thrilled to see it. We had middle schoolers over during pumpkin carving, and they were just like, whoa, so good. So.
Really give a lot of thought to that. And what I mean by that is, it's going to be really hard to get people to go there that don't have kids there. Like, I was thinking, we've got some friends with high school twins that are juniors. Like, they would never go. I mean, I just know they wouldn't because their kids aren't there. So, like, I don't know how you get the real community there.
I think we have to consider pairing it with something else, right? Some other draw to get people, while you're here, take a look at this amazing building.
Just occurred to me, don't know if this works, but is there any way we could have voting, the March voting at the elementary school?
That's an interesting idea.
No, the town vote, the election.
It's our PD day.
The election would get, so people would have to walk through there.
Because you don't do your PT there.
We don't have to.
It's not going to be a huge election for the most part. You're not going to have.
Will it be done by then?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot of confidence, Marcy.
I'm going to say yes. Oh, yes, I think even the place that we would vote would be the gym. So.
Yeah, but you funnel them through the new part when they come out through the campus.
You would just walk, like when you first walked into the main entrance.
Yeah.
Parents that have been there for a while, and they're like, whoa.
It's a good idea.
I guess we should talk to the town then about if we're going to do something like that.
Okay.
Probably something that the middle school teachers can also get excited about is when they're done, the trailer comes out of the side parking lot. So I know there's a lot of DPS staff who's really excited to get the staff parking lot back. I'm sure there's a lot of middle school teachers who will be glad to have some of their spots back too. Just as winter comes.
Well, I think I speak for the whole board and the whole community to say thank you to Lori, all of you guys, Dwayne, Marcy, and all of the staff. I can't imagine what it's like to work in that situation. And for all of the kids to learn in that situation. So, thank you very much. Dwayne, I have a question for you, if you please don't. So, did you get contacted by Ian Otwell about horse and deed codes? So, when we talk about the next round of testing?
We talked about, I actually called them and talked to them about it, and the recommendation for us was, because we're adding sites at the elementary school, we're basically replacing probably almost all, or it will turn out to be all, is their recommendation was to do basically like it was a brand new school, a whole separate round of testing when the project is over. So, well, it'll probably be March.
Really?
Yeah, it might not be March, it probably might be April or whatever, but that's our plan, is we'll just test it.
Okay. Because Cindy told me that you could test the stuff that you already replaced now.
We could, Ian, I don't want to speak for him, he
Yeah.
thought it would be a little confusing, what did you do, what didn't you do? He said, let's just do it all at once.
Okay.
And then our plan is also, in conjunction with that, to do the other two buildings, even though we're not required, we're probably gonna have to pay for that, because they do 3 rounds of testing for free. We're probably.
No, Cindy told me that, that they'll pay for it.
Oh, okay, well, if they pay for it, great. So we'll do the rest of it, we're in the home stretch on the grant, get the grant money for what we've already done, and then I'm gonna get some more stuff for, the whole part of BES, because there's some pictures that were placed there by BES.
Okay. So one other thing is I went on to the Round 2 results page of DES, of the website. And so there's that column, right, that they say, what is your remediation? And ours still says that, it says permanently posted for no drinking, hand wash only. So,
We haven't done testing on any of the new fixtures that have been replaced. When we do the new testing, have a remediation will change to fixture replacement.
okay, but if we did fix it, so I was just looking up at Bosquen, so they wrote remediation plan, like we have with ours, and then they said fixture outlet replacement, like, just
I need to do a test in conjunction.
in order to change it?
Right.
Okay, I understand, thanks.
Anybody else for Dwayne? Jessica, anything to add to your report?
No.
Any questions for Jessica?
I do. With the McKinney Vento, how many students or families, there you go, hi, how many, I'm not telling you. How many students, families do we have in the situation right now as far as like homelessness rooms?
So one of the aspects of McKinney Vento is a strong focus on confidentiality, so I wouldn't want to share that with you here, but I'd be happy to get back to you.
We can't say, I mean, I know not giving names and stuff, we can't even say how many families.
I'd rather not, but if Marcy thinks differently.
I think because the number is not giant, that it could be identifiable.
Okay.
All right, Owen, anything to add to your report? Yeah, that's right.
No.
Thank you for your presentation, very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, appreciate that. All right, and I'm going on to the student report, because I see you're not on the agenda, so I wasn't sure.
They're all, they have their own line.
They always have their own lines.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. My
In
fault.
bold.
Yes, in bold.
We submitted a little late this week, so I didn't make it onto the report.
No,
Oh,
no,
it is?
that Marcy sent it to us
Okay,
yesterday.
okay.
Yeah, sure it is.
Okay, cool.
Trevor, what do you think about Owen's presentation? I mean, what do you think about it in terms of being a student here?
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Well, I was talking about the AP classes and how I know a lot of kids will pack their junior year with AP classes, and then come their senior year, they're thinking, like, it's not really as important, like, I'm not applying with these grades necessarily, or they are, but it's not an importance for you. So I know a lot of instances where juniors will pack their year with APs, but seniors won't. And so I think the fact that they're only considering the senior year AP scores is a little weird. Also, just like caring about your AP scores senior year, like even with the fact that AP scores are becoming less of like the incentive to get the college credit, but more to like impress the colleges. And when you're applying to college with your junior year AP scores, that's the only thing they're seeing. Like by senior year, I'm sure there's a huge chunk of people that are just like, I'm just gonna go into the test. I'm not nearly steady as much as they would have junior year, so, not sure if there's any way to, like, change the fact that they're only considering seniors, but, hopefully that changes soon, because I think our results could be much better in that sense, but, no, that's great.
Anything else?
So for Student Senate, we participated in the NHPBS mock election, which was great. We had 449 students vote, which was a really good turnout compared to other schools. Like, I saw Portsmouth participated in it, and there are upwards of like 1,000 students, and I think they were in the 200 number of students voting. So our turnout was great. We had freshmen and sophomores vote in their classes, so they were like handed the ballot. So it wasn't super hard to get them to vote. And then we kind of wanted to simulate more of a real voter process for the juniors and seniors. So we required their IDs, their school ID, like a driver's license if they had it. And they went to the library. It was completely voluntary. And then we had a little booth set up. They voted, put it in the ballot box, and then we kind of did it. It was good. The results for New Hampshire accurately predicted every race, and the NHPBS election has accurately predicted the presidential race ever since they started in 1996, except for the 2000 election. So it's a really cool program. I'm really glad we did it. I don't think we've done it in the past. This might be our first year. Well, I know we haven't since I was here, but I think this is the first we've done it. It was really successful. So.
Did the percentages roughly line up with Bow and Dunbarton percentages?
Like in terms of the
election vote for Trump and who voted for Harris, for example?
I have not looked at that yet.
You would think it would.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I would say, yeah, pretty close, pretty close.
You know, very important question for you. Yeah. Who, besides the people on the ballot, who is the leading vote getter for the write-in candidate for president?
Okay, I didn't see the write-ins, but I heard a lot of Mr. Watson's floating around. For I don't know. He's not here today. Maybe he'll come later.
Excellent. Anything else for Trevor? I saw your parents when I voted. I had a lot in mind. Lori, anything to add to your report?
Yes, I think that it's funny when I was reading it, because I talked about the evacuation, that feels like a lifetime ago. But we did have a lot of good debriefs on that at all the levels. So it was, I think we did as well as we could, and we learned a lot. And it counts as 2 safety tips.
Any questions for Lori? Lori, when I read your report, it reminded me that, and I guess it's for the board, just before open house and the school started, Lori and I were talking about doing some sort of presentation to incoming families about kind of what I wish I knew when I was having my young kids come up. And the one example I could think of was a girl named Lindsay Reynolds, was a girl here in Bow who was an unbelievable lacrosse player. She went to Duke. And I would have loved to talk to her parents when my daughter first started getting into lacrosse as a little kid, you know, when she was. And just as one example, and we could do it on academics and extracurriculars, all sorts of stuff. And so let's not forget about trying to figure out how to do that for the next start of the school year next year. So.
Yeah, we have that, Beth Porkham and I talked about that as we get ready to plan in the spring for when we come back. So that's definitely still on the list.
Excellent.
Just a question, Lori. What about asking, like sending out a little survey to some of the parents as they finished their first year, if there was anything? Because that might be really...
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Adam, anything to add to your report?
I want to add, just kind of emphasize and throw a little shout out. Gary Harris and Christy Rizzi are 2 teachers who go at our school for a couple years and 3 years, and they introduced Secret Spirit Week this year. It's the first time we've ever done it, and it was an absolute blast. We were, kids didn't know what was coming. It was the teachers doing the Spirit Week, and the kids caught on pretty quick. And they just did an unbelievable job organizing it. The whole staff jumped on board. I think it's safe to say, everyone had fun. Everyone just had a great time. And the kids got there like looking ahead. They didn't know what was going to happen the next day, but they knew the teachers were going to be dressed oddly somehow. And we had a really high participation rate. The nice thing, the thoughtful thing that Christine and Carrie really did with it, that I thought was terrific, and I hope we do again, was it led into the Student Spirit Week, which is the next week. So it was just like a nice jumping off point, and I just want to recognize them. Nice little shout out for them. Other than that, that playground space, the hoops are in, they're looking really good. I don't know if we'll get the courts painted before it's getting a little cold. And I think it's going to be a little, we painted the floor square and whatnot with students, and they did a great job. The courts are going to be a little trickier to paint. It's going to be a little thoughtful. Or on our little planning on our part, we're going to have the kids do it, because it's not going to be so easy.
I feel like there's more to the story than what you're saying right now.
No, there really isn't. It's just, I have the stencil for the court in my office, and it's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. I just imagine how long it's going to take to have all the kids lay out all of the pieces. Given enough time, I'm sure they did a great job with the Foursquare. With the basketball courts, they literally are like it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Maybe this is an opportunity for like get your art students involved, and maybe you don't follow the normal lines. You get creative. Like there's like a circle over there, and if you get it from that circle, that's 4 points. And if you get it like do something that doesn't exist, you know?
I think some parts of the student body would love it. And I think there's another segment that would be crazy trying to put this all on that court.
I think you can see that on the school board.
Anyway, it was fun. It was a terrific month, and I think both boys soccer and girls field hockey won state championships. So they are trifecta. It was a really great year all around. A lot of terrific returns from cross country to girls soccer all the way around. It was a fun fall.
Excellent. Anything for Adam?
Yeah, I have one question. On the website, it says that the Peer Outreach Club hasn't started meeting yet. When roughly should that?
Peer Outreach, I think. Yeah. I mean,
Oh, it's on the website saying like, we'll let you know soon or something.
I think that's more of a website issue than a Peer Outreach. I think Peer Outreach is needed, so let me double check on that. I'll email you about it.
Yeah, or just, huh? Friday mornings? Yeah, maybe just like have it, yeah, so now everybody knows involved, we can let them know. Friday morning, Peer Outreach Club, at 8 o'clock or 7:50 or 8 o'clock? No, I said 7:50, 50. Yeah, so if we could just fix the website.
All right, Matt, anything to add to your report?
Just a couple quick things. Our peer outreach at the high school led by Tabitha Polly did a ton of stuff over the Halloween week. We did booing, where classes brought candy to each other, knocked on the door, and took off. So it was kind of like a fun school spirit thing. We had a lot of people dress up in costumes. I thought it was ridiculous having a disciplined student wearing a Minion costume. But it was fun. Kids were great. We had our school meeting last Friday to recognize Veterans Day. Our students were incredible when we went outside. If you haven't noticed, we raised the POW MIA flag. So it's the first time that flag has flown over Bow High School. We invited the Commandant General for the New Hampshire Army National Guard. He came in and spoke, and then he and Paul Cohen helped unfurl the flags and put them up on the flagpole. Our kids were amazing, incredibly respectful, so I think that was a really positive event. The other two things quickly to highlight, Kate Kulaks in her new role as school counseling director is crushing it. She's doing an amazing job. Just next week alone, on Monday, is Apply NH. So any high school senior can go into our school counseling office, and our school counselors will help them apply for free to any New Hampshire college or university. So that is an incredible opportunity. And then on Wednesday, our school counseling department is organizing a military fair. We'll have a Black Hawk touchdown on the backfield, and we'll have representatives from the services here to talk with students. And then the last thing to quickly highlight, and I gave Marcy a handout here. Okay, so last week we found out that we were named to the AP Honor Roll. So on the handout that I gave you on the last page, you can see the other schools that in the state of New Hampshire that were named. There were 96 possible schools that could have been named to the honor roll. There were only 16 that were named to the honor roll, and of that 16, there were only 6 that are traditional high schools. So we were one of 6 high schools, we were one of the only public high schools in the state to be named to the AP honor roll. So, and this is, like, you look at one side where the U.S. World News and Report only looks at seniors taking AP exams. The College Board themselves, the people who offer the AP, have us as one of the only schools in the state that's recognized as an honor roll.
That's great.
I see the Platinum Award on here. It's a Waterville Valley Academy. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
that's
the ski school?
Yeah, it's a ski school. So the way that happens, right? So you'll notice Wyndham is one of the schools on the list here. The reason Wyndham is on the list is they do pay for, the school pays for every student to take the AP exam. So because of the percentage of students who take the exam, that's where they get bumped up in the ratings. This past year, we had our highest percentage of students earn a 3 or higher in the last 5 years at Bow High School. So that's one of the reasons we're on the honor roll this year, is because of the number of students who earn a 3 or higher, and that includes juniors and seniors.
Do you mean that they actually give money to the students? Or they pay for the students to
They
take
pay
it?
for registration just and so Waterville Valley has so few students, percentage-wise, that's why they're ranked so high.
So do we have it so students can't afford
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
They don't afford that?
Correct.
Great.
Anything else from that? Chris, anything to add to your report?
Yeah, one thing that wasn't on my report is we recently published ALMA documentation for families. So that's out there on the website right now, and hopefully that'll help out with folks who are struggling with logging in and using ALMA. One of the things that IT has identified as a shortcoming is the disconnect between the community that's using ALMA and IT. So what we did is we published a form for folks to click on it and submit issues to us so that we can have that conduit between my department and folks who are actually having the issues. Because we're hearing about it essentially secondhand. They're bringing it to the building level, and then folks at the building level are coming to us, so there's this handoff of the issue. So we felt like this was more of a direct conduit for families to reach out to us. The third option that I wanted to discuss is the idea of having like an open house where we can provide hands-on support for people that need, extra help with the various issues that they might be having. So I would like to get some feedback on if we're going to do that, when it would be appropriate to have that open house, and maybe it can be timed with an event that the community might be here anyway. I don't know what that would be, but I'm open to ideas on that.
So Chris and I met about this, and one of the things that they're going to be doing, if they haven't already, I haven't seen it, but is categorizing the help on there. So like the one, basics, how to log in, how to look at my child's grades, how to look at attendance, how to run all of those sort of things, because I think people are having issues in different areas. And then we did, for each building, held something for parents, or had had someone present to help with Alma at open houses and or parent-teacher conferences. So that did happen, and was in the newsletters. I know not everyone reads the newsletters, but there's good information in there. And so, but if we can find another event, we can talk like sporting event, whatever, that's here, we can have someone adjust their hours or stay late to be able to help support families.
How well attended were those? And because that initially, I think, actually Judson, I think, had the idea to begin with. And that's what I was envisioning, but then once you said basically you basically videotaped it and have it online, kind of like a PowerPoint, which makes even more sense. But the live ones, I mean, did anybody show up? I mean, did you have much of a crowd? No. I wouldn't think so.
I mean, they had a crowd of people show up, just not a crowd that needed that support.
I would say more people showed up at the second open house court after the evacuation if they didn't get a notice. So
That's how we knew it worked, because a lot of people came.
And I would say that at the elementary school, I would say at least once a week we get a request for help. Like I can't get logged in, and so between the office staff and our tech assistant, they're able to help that person. So.
I'm wondering, what if we want to consider having a social media type of presence to be able to get information out there, like I'm thinking of Facebook or something, where people can also get some information out there.
We do have social media presence in a variety of different ways. Matt, we have Instagram.
We have Facebook, Instagram, very rarely on X. That's more used by the athletic department. All of my messages go out on our Fall High School webpage as well.
Like for the
What thing?
for having information or help.
Yeah, section board.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue is we can host an event, but if no one shows up, getting the word out is key in resolving those issues. So, yeah, whether or not that's social media or,
And we can push that out through pages that exist. I mean, there are a number of Facebook pages dedicated to certain classes. A class of 2030, I think, exists. So we can push things out that way.
And both school matters.
Chris, can't thank you enough for all the work you've been doing. Honestly, it's awesome. It's really awesome. Really, everything you've done has been great. Any questions, administration, about Mike's report or Beth's report or Tiffany's report? I assume no.
No, just to say that it was another great sports awards last night. Like, this was a great job putting it together, I think.
Yeah, I think, Owen and I were talking this morning, this was the first one that he's been to, and he's like, it isn't always like that. And it's so well attended, there's so many kids participating, it's pretty incredible, like, you don't see it everywhere. I mean, 250 kids participating in just the fall season, it's awesome.
Mike and I talked a little bit about having, so I kind of got pulled into assistant coaching the BMS softball team last spring, just because I showed up and said, hey, I can always help. And they said, good, you're the assistant coach now. So I was happy to do it, but there was a bunch of girls that our parents said, they'll probably not be able to play in high school because they won't be good enough. And I went up to talk to Mike about that. And it turns out we only have a varsity, and I know there's a question of do we have numbers? But the thing is that if the girls don't see that there's an opportunity to play too, that might discourage playing that sport.
It's based on what you sign off, so
Right.
We
I think that
we actually get funded with your support, the JV softball coach every year. And it's just a question, if there's enough numbers, we are going to run a program where we have a schedule.
Yeah, if you're lucky to have a JV team.
In softball,
last
for
year.
whatever reason, and I think it ebbs and flows, we haven't had enough numbers to have a full JV team, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be supportive of it. And I do think I feel like we're going to have one. It's not this year. I think there's one in the future, because we've got some good cusp of being able to do that. So, yeah, I think we'll have it.
Great.
I've heard rumblings of that with girls' basketball. I've heard that there might not be enough for JV, which is actually shocking.
We were looking at numbers today, and
Be
it
great.
wasn't great.
Well, can't we, like, when I was in school, we could pull up and, you know, some good
Only in certain divisions.
Oh, really?
And then, I mean, that's kind of a philosophical question too, right? You're taking from another program to support a program at the high school, you're introducing 13-year-olds, you know, high school level, so there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, they were also talking about letting some of the sixth grade girls, and some schools did do that. They allowed the sixth grade girls to play on the softball teams so that they had more players, and they wanted to, so just wondering if there was that opportunity.
And field hockey, the middle school field hockey had that opportunity, so there could be, I think it really depends on numbers.
I had one suggestion for the sports award. I think the night was great. It's the second year in a row that the soccer team, all-state selections have been the same night as that, so the coaches aren't able to do all-state selections, and it's the second year in a row. I know the coaches were kind of disappointed that they couldn't show up to help put their names forward for their all-state selections. So I don't know if it's something we want to look at in the schedule on the
We could talk all night about all-state selections and their criteria and how every sport has their own association, own organization. They all do it differently, and it's wildly different depending on the sport. Everything from, you know, how many players you can have, or it's unlimited, or they have specific positions that you jockey for. So field hockey last year, the same thing. They announced all-state selections right before semifinal games. Not an awesome time to do that. It's pretty disruptive, especially if you didn't make the cut. So I don't know if Mike knows those dates. I can ask him if he knew that was, how far in advance we know when they're selecting. But it's a good point.
Especially if it's been 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Well, we should target the week before Thanksgiving, because that, everyone is done with the exception of football, potentially. You know, so we know every sport's at least done playing at that point, and so you would think all those all-state teams would be selected by then, maybe not football, but, you know. I know and look, I know he struggles to find dates. I know it's a huge challenge for him. There's juggling with concerts and all sorts of stuff that goes on, that it's not that easy. It sounds like it's super easy, but I've talked to him before about it, and it's really hard. All right, moving on. How's your throat? You're able to read a bunch of manifests and vouchers here?
Wait, no, there's only one. Those are all SAU.
Oh, were they? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. I'll definitely read it. I'll make a motion to approve the manifest for the period ending September 30th, 2024, in the amount of $4,592,296.78.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Personnel actions, no resignations, but a number of retirees, and why don't, Jenny, you want to make a motion, or we can have the discussion?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to regretfully accept the retirement request of Janice Escalin, Heidi Cruz, Sue Shore, and Jeannie Mercier.
So typically, the board, we have three, right? You agreed to three. There's obviously four here. Dwayne has them in proper order based on number of years and age. Do you have that written?
So, so like Marcia said, the BEA agreement requires you to accept up to three. In the past, and certainly in all the years that I've been here, if there's been more than three, the board has been supportive of accepting all of the requests. If, though, just to be on the safe side, you know, the person who would be outside of the three is Jeannie Russo.
And Dwayne, if you can, please explain why would it matter? So what would be the reason we would not accept all four?
I have a really good reason, actually. I mean, in some districts, there can be a fear that, so with planned retirement, there's a payout based on contract language. Usually what will happen is, the little budget for that particular person is if they weren't retiring, you'll pay a replacement because you've accepted the retirement. Usually that replacement comes in at a lower cost and it offsets, or in conjunction with the planned retirement, and then the following year you see quote-unquote savings from the position. That doesn't always happen. I guess you could make an argument for boards that if it was a very, very hard position to fill, you might not accept all three, but we've never really, agreed with that assertion. It's always been for us that, you have people here who have committed, 2+ decades to the school district in every case, in every single, all 4 of them. And, we want to demonstrate we can support of their wishes, and certainly, usually sometimes I'm the first to know, as they're contacting us and talking about numbers and things like that, and it's always a little sad for me sometimes when we start to do those things, but, we've always been supportive of that for that reason. I don't know what my conversation would be with someone if I went to them the next day and said, tough break. You gotta come back, I guess. Or you don't get the payment. Good luck. But it is within, the board's right, and we don't take it that way. We gotta be, supportive of that.
All right, hearing no other questions, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on, second read of a bunch of policies, and which I'll read off in a second. So, as a reminder, this is the second read. So the first read, we already went through all the process of talking about them and making any revisions. The reason these are specifically up is that the U.S. Department of Education had new rules for Title IX go into effect in August. And as a result, we've had to revise our Title IX rules, more or less. Most of this is tied to Title IX. The changes from the draft we previously, the first read, there's no changes from the first read, but the changes from the prior version are mostly like procedural and stylistic. For example, the only new class of Title IX protections is for pregnancy, for example. There's no other changes that we would do. So typically we don't really talk about them much at a second reading. However, I think the whole board got 2 emails from people that were troubled by Title IX. Maybe it was just me, I don't know. But in any event, we discussed it with our school lawyer, and he confirmed that there's no injunctions or anything applicable to us or any reason why we shouldn't pass these. And in fact, we have to. So with all that said, do we have a motion to approve and adopt policy ACAC, policy AC, policy AC-R2, policy ACA, policy JLDBB, and finally policy JKAA? So moved. All right, we have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Back to public comment.
Do you want to leave it on the microphone?
I would be more comfortable if you were at the microphone. No, I'm kidding.
Go to the microphone.
No.
For the people on.
Yeah. I also realized I forgot to do my address before. I apologize. Judson Malone, 7 Audley Drive. There, it's on the record. Couple of comments. Alma, I did not know about the Alma help sessions until I think the day before. I wasn't actually able to make it to some of the parent-teacher stuff, but I actually wasn't aware there was an Alma help kiosk. And I didn't know there was anything on the website. I will check that out. It was actually Melanie's idea to have a parent session, and I jumped on board with that because I liked that idea. So I didn't know there was something on the website for it. Maybe there's something.
It's very recent.
Okay.
2 hours ago.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, thank you for that. I think that will be helpful because we we have stumbled our way through a fair amount of that. And I think there may even be, from some parents, some complacency around it now, of like, well, I'll just get through it. But I think it can be a more useful resource, and so I think that'll help. Thank you for doing that. Let's see, sports. I want to talk sports real quick, circle back to that. Was just about the softball at the middle school. I've had kids that played diverse sports, lots of different sports, softball included, for my daughters, my oldest daughters, and they have seen a lot of kids that quote unquote take the sport seriously do club sports. They don't do school sports. And school sports, I don't know, for whatever reason, have fallen out of favoritism as far as your elite students, your elite players do not play school sports. In fact, lots of club sports prohibit, once you get to high school, prohibit you actually playing school sports and only playing club sports. I don't know if they all do that. I've seen it happen. So you can run into some of that. The other thing I will say is always encourage your kids to go check out what VAC has to offer for sports. VAC has a really good history of running fun, competitive, generally speaking, competitive sports. They are not as ultra competitive as club sports. They're more fun-based. They're more learning-based. And I think that speaks a little bit to some of the JV fall-off as well. An observation that I've had is I've seen at some of these school sport levels, even where there's where it's like not competitive. Cadence was on a softball team for 2 years in the middle school that didn't lose a single game. Blew out every team that they played. Right? Like, it's not fun. And it was done at the expense of not providing learning opportunities for the other players on the team. So I think that there's an opportunity for coaches to prioritize teaching and development of the players over purely winning. And providing some of the players that might normally be on the bench, give them some opportunities, make that fit into the game plan. It doesn't happen as often as I would have liked to have seen. My kids are not elite students in elite athletes in a lot of their sports. They do it for fun. They have abilities, but by squashing that, why would I want to keep playing? Why would I want to go on JV and do my time on JV just to go ride the bench in varsity? I'm not going to do that. That happens. I'm not even saying that's my student, but that's been my observation of some of that. So that's where I see it happening. Club sports is always there, though. School sports just don't seem to have that same draw that they might used to have had. It's also really hard to find coaches, as I'm sure you're all aware. Melanie, thanks for stepping up for the middle school, right? I mean, it's hard finding coaches to do these things, especially when you're talking about a JV team. So, and don't forget about VAC. You all know why I'm saying that. My wife runs a lot of those programs. So, and then one last thing, it does revolve around sports as well, and just hesitate to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up with a larger audience here, to be very frank with you. I have seen at the high school in particular, students not come forward with injuries because they don't want to go talk to the athletic trainer. Not because he's not nice, not because he does a bad job, but because they don't want to be told that they can't play for X period of time, or that they maybe get misdiagnosed with a sprain and you got to go check it out, and your parents have to rack up these medical bills only to find out that it actually wasn't, and then it can be reinstated for a particular injury that didn't happen. I'm only bringing it up. I don't have a solution to this. But I did want you to know that I'm aware of students that have chosen not to go see a trainer when they potentially should have over that fear. So
I will chime in on that, and I'll say that that's a universal experience in all, not just all schools, like even my 2 kids who play college sports, it's the same way in college. Even in college, they do the same thing, they avoid the trainer because they don't want to be taken out of the game or put on some sort of injured reserve or whatever. I bet Dwayne, I bet you feel the same, like Co Brown or Merrimack Valley or any of these schools, like I know you said you don't have the answer, but I don't think any school has the answer on that question.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand a lot of it's fundamentally around safety, and I do get that. Last thing, I've been to some volleyball games recently, and I would be interested to have a discussion and see if there was any interest in people playing volleyball in Bo. It's a really fun sport to watch. I'll tell you that even my 2 boys watched a whole girls team play volleyball because it's engaging. So anyway, that's it.
Or co-ed, or co-ed.
Maybe co-ed. I don't want to see my daughter get crushed in the face by a spike.
I don't know, I took it. I'm just gonna say I took it. I might explain something.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kelsey Nugent, excuse me, 24 Southbow Road. And some of you might know me because I'm the PTO president this year too. But I just wanted to congratulate the teachers that are retiring. I'm also actually a 2007 Bow High School graduate, so I think it speaks really highly that I can tell you probably 3 or 4 books that I remember that I read in 5th grade between Janice Esplin and Sue Shore's classes, and I know I crossed paths with Jim and some others as well. So just going back to their earlier report about what sets us apart, I really think that it's always been just such a really welcoming and wonderful group. So that was it. Congratulations to the teachers that are retired.
Yeah. Great.
And welcome, being the new PTO president.
All right, we're moving on to board, committee, and delegate reports. Generally, the administration goes home if they so desire. Jessica, slow down.
What's that? Yeah.
That's not good, is it?
All right, well, let's keep rolling. Again, feel free to make.
Can I just say one thing? I just wanted to say that I've never seen so much staff come to our meetings, and it's awesome. So I want to say thank you to the people that already left. Please let them know that I said thank them. We all say thank you, because you know, sometimes they could give some information to us. We don't understand how something goes. Learning about what you're doing in your class, it's so valuable. And I think that the parents that are here also want to hear it. Because it also might start a conversation, like a jumping off point for their own kids to say, hey, I heard about the parents that can't make it, they get to watch it. So there's a lot of people that got to hear what you're doing in your class, and they can talk to their kids about this and start maybe even researching it more themselves. Or maybe we want to get something together to go out to families, because I think, like, you know, technology changes so much that it's hard to keep up, and maybe parents aren't giving them accurate information either. So I don't know, maybe we want to talk about that, but I just want to say thank you so much. I think I speak for the whole board, so.
It's Joe brought us with chili outside.
We tailgate. Love it.
That's why.
Chili.
But were there cocktails?
Yeah.
It was a cook-off.
Coffee, chili muffin.
Was it a competition of chilies?
He just did it for us.
Yeah, I like chili. I haven't eaten dinner yet.
Just sounds Jeff kind of starving.
We're like, okay, some chili, please.
Yeah, we'll do it.
That's awesome. That's great.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving on, policy, you know, kind of touched on that. I'd love, unless we have ones that we are like required or revised right now, wouldn't mind a little break. Policy stuff.
Yeah,
Just-
there's
Any policies this fall.
Yeah, there'll be a couple, not a ton.
Okay. Otherwise, we talked about them. Negotiations, we're going to be talking not in the non-public,
Yep.
so no need to discuss that now. Budget, Martin?
Yeah, so picture takes next week.
Oh,
There will be no Super Saturday this week.
Oh.
So they're changing, I know. Trash.
Yeah, way to go, Warren.
Mercy. No, so if you are interested in getting to know what the towns have proposed, you have to go to the select board meeting, the first 3 ones in December. It doesn't really move the needle for us. We give them our budget anyway, so
Yep.
no Super Saturday.
excellent.
No, pretty exciting.
Town CIP, I've got emailed all of you.
Yeah.
We finally wrapped that up after a couple months. Yeah, they were very complimentary of the school down there, so. And
Yeah, thank
accepted
you guys.
everything back.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it. It's all the work. That was a lot of work.
That was really great.
District CIP, buildings and fields, I have really nothing to do to add there. Wellness, Jenna?
We haven't.
There was a meeting today, but.
I wasn't invited.
You're not one, it wasn't well attended for whatever reason, and it normally is, so, but they used it to plan, they do a lot of planning, future planning today.
Future ready schools? Nothing,
No, we're waiting to hear when they want us to be part.
Excellent. Transportation, Dwayne, do you want to say? Because you don't say it out loud.
Oh, not gonna say.
Well, let's say it this way, Dwayne. We're feeling really good about where we're at the moment and don't want to expand on that for fear of jinxing ourselves.
I am super pumped. Right.
Let's leave it at that. Take it for what you want. New Hampshire State School Board Association. Heard you guys had a big weekend.
We did. We had our meeting on October 19th. Go over resolutions. I am happy to just submit the resolutions that were passed. I'm sure you got them in the email, but I can submit those to the meeting minutes rather than going through all of them.
Excellent. Anything particularly exciting? Nothing super exciting?
No, Melanie went with me as well. No huge changes from what, I mean, I don't know what it was before since this is all new to me, so the presentations that they do for the school board of the year, just amazing to see what different schools are.
It was Oyster River the year I went back.
Yeah, so I was there for those.
Oh, hold on.
I think they got it like 2 years ago.
I have it right here. I have it written down right here.
I mean, I have it too. It's okay, I was just curious if you know.
Jaffrey Ridge.
I was just gonna.
Oh, Jaffrey Ridge,
Yeah,
okay.
One thing that I thought would be beneficial that they talked about winning school board of the year was that they have a, I can't think of the word, the systematic plan, that's not the word, but.
Strategic plan.
Strategic plan, thank you.
Right. So we did
Strategic
the
plan as a school board, and they get together during the summer, they like plan it out, and they kind of come up with, kind of with the administration, they're coming up with that kind of thing. And so they do that, but also the year before, Oyster River said the same thing. I just thought it might be something we consider, both Angela and I thought it was a great idea. So.
We do have a strategic plan, so that's something that we work on every year. I don't know what the history here has been in terms of board participation or not, but
I think more like as a board, what do we have goals
Yeah.
that we want to
Mhm.
accomplish?
It was a board thing.
Policies, I think, but whatever it may be.
You're gonna make a joke and then you pause,
That's
because
stuff.
you're like, "Okay, that should-"
But I do think, like, as a board, if we had any goals that we
Yeah.
wanted to meet, more than like the school, like if there was something we particularly wanted to accomplish, I think that's
Yes.
more what.
Yes, yeah,
they were
so it
talking
was
about.
like, instead of like us meeting, putting out flyers, doing stuff like the basic, but also like coming up with what we think would be.
I do feel like we're really lucky that we have such supportive administration, like we can be like, oh, we're not ranking where we want to be, can we hear more about that? And Owen whips together this elaborate presentation with stats and like, maybe that like, for example, that would be something I would think would be in a strategic plan, like how do we work on, but, or how do we find out more about this? But I feel like you guys are very responsive to concerns that come up as we go, which is always made it seem to me less important to have a strategic plan as a
Well,
board, but I do think it
yeah.
would still be helpful.
I think a strategic plan though, where you have measurable goals, like you can measure things, you can make sure that things are going in the direction, it stays on the forefront of your mind. I just think it might be something worth talking about and considering.
Excellent.
And their food program sounded amazing. I mean,
Oh, stop.
and I don't know how much it costs, but I certainly hear complaints from my 2 kids about.
Yeah, so it's called the Abbey Group.
About the food.
Yeah, the Abbey Group, and they use local sources, and they work with local farms, and then they help like supplement, but they still get money from the government, but it's actually like.
Farm to table.
Yeah. I don't know, but she said that this group, if you guys write it down, the Abbey Group, they actually walk districts through it, and like to try and help you build it. It just seems like a really great opportunity, something to really look into, because, I don't know, there's a lot about like, you know, the nutrition and health and outcomes for schools as well, and behavior with kids, so.
It's pretty impressive they offer a late bus. Not only do they have full bus drivers, they're able to offer a late bus to both towns. I mean, things that Dwayne's working on that, right?
Yeah. We
I know.
actually had a late bus.
Did we?
Yes.
I remember that.
So we cut it, and actually Dunbarton for years had a late bus,
Yeah.
and the same thing happened, and.
That's what I remember. I can remember like the kids getting out of middle school or whatever, and their late bus, whatever, and we'd be there with nobody on it.
Right.
I was like, oh, you're just
But-
sitting here waiting for nobody? There's nobody.
But I'm just gonna say, I think that maybe, and I would love to like look into that more, because this is a thing. I'm very straightforward. I grew up poor, and I didn't even consider doing after-school activities because I did not have transportation. And maybe the family didn't know about it. Maybe, you know, I'm just saying, like, maybe we look at it again, and maybe we don't need a bus, but maybe we need to use that little van thing, or, I don't know.
Let's get our regular.
That's the Falcon
Let's
Flyer,
get our
Melanie.
regular stuff.
I know. I'm just saying,
Yeah, we need somebody
like,
to run it.
I'm just saying, like, if we want more participation in the sports, maybe if we
Yeah,
can
I-
help some kids get home. I don't know.
We're all about trying to help kids, but I think our numbers would suggest that we have incredible participation. Like, not just sports, the amount of clubs that we have and kids that are in them is incredible,
Well, and most people embrace the carnival, right?
especially at the high school.
That's
Yeah.
what people do. Athletic improvements and funding, nothing new to add. Booster Club?
They're working on winter concessions, hosting basketball tournaments, and doing food for the PTO craft fair.
I have a question too. Well, if we have like one of us going to the booster club and we're putting up that, why don't we ever do like PTO?
You can join PTO and you can report on it. If you want to. Feel free.
I just didn't know if that might be something.
It's just because Jen Rain was on boosters and she always reported
Yeah.
back. If you want to be on PTO and report back,
Yeah,
that's
just
fine.
take a look. Cool, have it. Yeah.
It was just more like, to remind us to get an update because Jen was going to the meetings anyway. Okay.
We used to have BJC on there because I used to be involved.
Yeah. But, yeah, if you want to go to PTO
And it's
meetings.
going to have that.
I disagree with that statement.
Totally kidding. Anything else? Booster Club?
No, I think that's about it.
Excellent. All right. Anything else? Any more public comments? Anyone? No? Any bottom lines for Marcy?
Not for Marcy, but I just want to say, I feel like we've had some really amazing senior projects in the last few weeks. Kudos to Trevor.
Yes.
You guys had a candidate forum.
Trevor did such a good job, like, cutting people off in a really
Oh, really?
nice,
yeah.
positive
Yeah,
way.
that's
Dwayne and I came, we sat right up there, like, we have got to watch this.
Last year, it was like so much fun.
Very good.
After I got past like the initial nerves, I was like,
I was gonna say this.
And
We
Leah
can
Miller
stop
did
the candidates from talking, we need you now.
Leah Miller just put on
Yep.
a veterans breakfast.
Yeah,
So
I
really
asked him
some-
about it. He said it was really, really good.
What's your son doing?
Yeah, what's Keegan up here?
What's his senior
Coaches a low
project?
soccer
Oh,
club
that's
team.
right.
Ah, okay,
I just keep seeing his picture, like.
awesome.
He got one of his kids asked him his jersey system.
Wow.
He's like, you want me to like sign your practice shirt? He's like, yes!
That's awesome. Wow.
That's really sweet.
That's fun. Anything else? All right, do we have a motion under RSA 91-A:311, open pairing, C, closed pairing, to go into a non-public session?
Yes, I make a motion.
We have a second, hearing no discussion. Martin?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Bryce, aye. Jenna?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Motion passes. We go into a non-public.